It's Al Angelo from A Plus Racing. We're bringing you another video on our economy Spec Miata. What are we doing today? Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wire up the kill switch. It's mandatory that we have a kill switch. You got to have a way of reaching in, turning a switch off, and the engine dies. And that seems to be the biggest problem that people run into, is trying to get it to where the engine dies. So there are several ways of doing it. I'm going to show you, of course, the simplest and easiest way of doing it, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, okay, because I use a lot of the wiring that's already in the car. So there are several ways of wiring this, but this is the one that I use and it always works for me, okay? So I'm going to have to teach you a little bit about electrical, and I know some of you are like, oh, darn electrical, but hey, it's going to be easy, all right? And so let's just go ahead and jump into it. So I've drawn on the board a wiring schematic. And I have two different ones. I have the stock one, of what your car probably looks like now, and I have one what it's going to look like when we're done. So we're going to start over here at the battery. All right, so here's the battery, and we have a positive post and a negative post. All right, now if you don't know anything about electrical, you can still do this job. Don't be afraid. You don't have to send it out to any shop or anything. I'm going to go step by step. You're going to understand how this works. I'm also going to teach you a little bit about electrical and some symbols. So on our negative post, we're going to have a wire that comes out, and this symbol means that it goes to ground. And what a ground is something metal on the car, like the body or the engine, you know, the frame, something like that. So this wire only goes to bolting to the car, all right? And it bolts into the car in a couple places. One really close to the battery, and then the other place is down. If you follow this all the way down, it goes to the PPF bar under the car, and it bolts to the side of that. That's pretty simple. We're not changing anything there. You can see it's the same on both sides. All right, on this side, the positive, all right? So the positive terminal of the battery goes, it's a black wire, and this is the symbol for the starter motor, okay? So this is any type of motor, this is that symbol. This could be a wiper motor, window motor, washer motor. It's always going to use this symbol. So this goes to the starter motor. It's a black wire, okay? That's part of the starting system. Also, we're going to be using the alternator, and the alternator has a white wire that goes to the fuse box that is hot at all times, okay? So anytime 24/7, this wire has power going to it, this white wire. So that's stock. What we're going to do is we need to add a cutoff switch, okay, which I've drawn right here. So let's look at this schematic. So we still have the battery. The ground is the same. But what we're going to do is we're going to run the positive lead from the battery to one side of the switch, okay? Now, if I wanted to get real accurate, this would be this symbol. That's a switch, okay? All right, so this lead is going to go to one part of the switch. The other part of the switch, we're going to run a wire from this part of the switch to the alternator where the white wire was. Okay, and now we're going to run a wire. The wire from the starter is going to come to this side. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move the white wire that went to the alternator. We're going to move it to the starter motor. So we're going to take this wire here and we're going to put it right here. Okay. And that's what it's going to look like. So I might be a little confusing right here, but when we get over there to do it, I think you're going to see it's going to be pretty simple. All right. So basically what we're changing is this positive lead to the switch. So basically this was this. Okay. Initially with this gone, it was this. So we just added the switch in there. All right. And then the alternator, we're going to run from this one here to the back of this is actually the wire that makes the engine die. So when this doesn't have any power, the engine will die, all right? So that's a mistake that people made. And then we got to do something with the white wire. So what we do with the white wire is we put it onto the starter motor, okay? All right, let's go out in the shop and see about putting this all together. I'll be back in a minute. All right, so we're back. I have put down on the table some of the parts and tools that we're going to need. I'm having to think about this ahead of time, and so I may have forgotten something, but I'll go ahead and go through all this, and then if we need something else, we'll grab it. First off, we're going to need some battery wire, probably roughly, I don't know, this might be 4 or 5 feet long. Let's take a look. Yeah, it might be 4 feet long, should do. Now, this is number 4 gauge wire, Okay, and if you don't know anything about wire, the smaller the number, the bigger diameter of the wire. Okay, so this is like 4 gauge. We've already added the ends on here, but I'm going to show you how to do that, so don't panic, okay? And then we're going to need the ends. So this is the end right here that goes on the end there. We're also going to need some heat shrink tubing, okay? And that's what I have on here that makes it look so nice and finished, and it protects it. I'm going to need a little bit of Loctite. I'm going to need some wire to run from the alternator to the switch, and this is 12 gauge wire. Okay, so I need that. We already talked about this. Some type of heat source. Sometimes I use these little propane torches, some solder, and I also have a heat gun for the heat shrink tubing, or I can use that gun there. Some cutters to cut the wire, and then I made a template, and I'll explain this in a minute. A switch. Okay, so here we have a 2-pole switch, and then some hand tools right here, some wrenches and a Phillips screwdriver. So let's go ahead and start off with this. Okay, so this is what I already did. So what I like to do, and if you come around here, you can take a look. Oh, by the way, we're down here on a Saturday. We've got Katie filming, and she came in to help out. All right, Katie. So I'm going to show them this. You got to get the back of the car, Katie. Back of the car. There you go. All right. So what we did is this, when we had TC Design do the cage, they put the switch here, and they did a beautiful job. This is really nice. The only thing is I kind of like it when the switch is close enough that the driver can reach it fairly easy. So lately on a lot of my cars, I've been adding this to the cage. So basically all I did was I took a piece of cardboard and I made a template out of it. And I had the kids, we found a thin piece of metal, and I had them them welded on here. All right. It's not the structure and it's strong enough to hold the switch, I think we're okay with their weld job. And so we just added this to it. So this is where I'm going to put the switch. The other place I kind of like seeing them, I've never done it before, is either on the tunnel or on the dash, on the cover or something up there. I might try that on the next one. I know it's a lot more wire, but it would be nice that, I like the fact that the driver can reach it. All right, so this is where we're going for now. All right, so we've made that, we put that inside there. All right, so step one is we're going to need to get in the trunk. So here we are. We already got our battery sitting in here. So I'm going to need to remove this wire, okay? And so here's our wire right here for the positive. No, it's not even tight. All right. So what I need to do with this wire first is I'm going to strip this insulation back, okay? And then if you come around over here, right in here, Katie, come on here and zoom in down here where my hand's at. There's a hole right in here, and we're going to bring that wire right through this hole right here, okay? And so once we get to here, then we're going to route it up, and it's going to go to the switch. So we're going to go ahead and mount the switch on here. So why don't we mount the switch now, and then we'll have that on. So here's the switch. I've got the little knob off. Let me get on that side, Katie. I'll get on this side. Okay, so it comes with two like lock nuts and a grippy washer. So I'm just going to set this on there like that. Some of these come with a cool sticker that says on off. I'm just going to write it on here with a felt marker. Okay. All right, so this is a 26 millimeter. I want to get that good and tight there. Okay. All right. So I got that on. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to peel off that wire and then bring it through here. So the next time you see me, we're gonna have that wire through there. So we'll be right back. Okay. So we're back. All right. So here it is. I went ahead and I fed that. You can still see the end is still on here from the battery. I fed it through and it came through this little hole right over here. Get a good shot of that, Katie. And I left this insulation on there. If you've already taken the insulation off, sometimes what I like to do is put on a like a piece of heater hose or something right here to protect it from getting cut by this right here. We've also rolled this edge right here so that it's not really sharp, so it won't cut it open. All right, so I need to get rid of this end, okay? So I got a couple different pair of cutters here and hoping one of them is strong enough. There we go. Okay, I got rid of the end. I'm going to strip a little insulation off of here. Okay, so probably like half an inch of insulation. I'm going to go ahead and strip that off. Like that. Okay, so I got that off. All right. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to add on an end that's going to go to here, and then it's going to go to this one right here. Okay, so what I got is I've got my end, and I went and I cut up some little pieces of solder and I put them inside there. Okay, so I'm going to melt the solder and then I'm going to stick the end in there. But before I do that, I need to make sure I put on my heat shrink tubing. Okay, otherwise you're just going to have an exposed end. You'll have to wrap it with electrical tape. All right, and so the solder that I'm using is rosin core electrical solder. Okay, so I'm going to fire this up. I'm going to set this here. I'm going to melt that solder. Sometimes I use a stamp. I know I've used that in the past, but the kids I had helping me, they're not here today because we're on here on the weekend, and I don't know where they put it. So I'm doing this second method. All right, so I got that solder good and hot. Stick it in there like that. I'm going to hold it still so that it can cool down. Oh, I might still need that. All right. I'm going to put our heat shrink tubing over the top of it. Like that. And I could use that heat gun for this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and heat this up. I like that stuff, huh? It's like satisfying when I see that thing shrink down like that. All right, here we go. Okay, I'm done with that. We're good with this. Look at that. Looks great. Okay, so I need a 9/16 wrench. I'll grab it right here to undo that post right there. Okay. Okay. All right. And then this one, I just want to make sure I'm wove right here. Okay. So this one's going to go here. Our lock washer. Okay, so the next step is we're going to need to build a cable that goes from here to the battery. So this one initially went to the battery, and now it's just going from the starter to our switch. Okay, so we're just interrupting it. All right. So, and the kids get a little anxious sometimes, and they went ahead and built our wire already. All right, so this is it right here. So they've already built this, some of the students in the class, and we're going to go ahead and weave this right in where that other wire came out, like that. And we're going to bring it over to here, and we're going to put it on this one. Now, we're also going to have to add the wire from the alternator to here. So I'm just going to put this on here for like a temporary purpose, like that. Okay. All right. So now technically, we should be in the trunk. And there it is. Okay. So here it is right here. All right. So it's going to go to our positive. Now, I'm going to tell you something on these NBs. I don't like running the battery like this. And what I mean by that is I don't like running the battery, the positive post right here. I like to switch them. So it looks like they made this just long enough that it should be able to go to this side. All right. And the reason why that is because I've seen the battery come loose in here and then it touches right here. And when it does, it burns up the wiring harness and the engine dies. Okay. So by switching it around, I normally don't have a problem. I don't ever have a problem with this, the positive touching. Sometimes I put foam in here and things that could keep the battery from not shifting around, so that this doesn't touch if you're kind of stretched for room. But I think we can make it all the way to here. I'm not going to hook this up right now because we got more work to do and I don't want to have any electrical problems. So I'm going to leave this undone for right now. Okay, so let's see the next step. The next step is to run a wire from this post right here down all the way to the alternator. And of course, the kids got a little overzealous and they already made the wire. But I'm going to show you how we do it on the other end. So basically, they've already got the wire. It's right here. And so we're going to go ahead and hook this wire up. And then we're going to follow it down to the other end. And I think that they left it open so that I could finish the job up. They're wanting to get this car on the track right away. I keep having to put the brakes on. I'm like, nah, you went too far. We got to videotape it. All right, so this is going to go on here. And you can see that they got a nice end on here with heat shrink tubing on there. It's nice and clean. They did a pretty good job. Some good kids in this class. All right. Okay, so we got that. We'll tighten this up. All right. Okay. And so I see they've got it. If you come on over here, Katie, we can show them where they've got it wired to. I guess we'll go like this. All right. So they got it here. They got it coming through here. They got through that there. And so they made it to where we can go ahead and put it alongside the roll bar. And then it's headed through. And then let's go look to see where they ended up in the engine compartment. Okay. All right. I see what they did. Yeah, that's nice and clean. They came through the air conditioning hole right here. Okay. And they left me plenty of wire here to go to the alternator. All right. So what we're going to need to do, I'm going to route this so it goes under the car, because we're going to need to get under the car and hook that up to the alternator. And then we got to take the white wire from the alternator and hook it up to the starter. All right. Okay. So we'll be back in just a minute. Be right back. All right. Here we are. Okay. So here is the red wire coming from my switch. And this is going to be my new wire going to the back of the alternator where the white wire is. So come on in here close and I'm going to show you what we're dealing with. So this is the gauge and other wire for the alternator. This one here is our white wire. All right. So it normally had battery positive all the time. So it has a plastic cover on there in order to keep it from not touching and grounding it out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up this plastic cover. We're eventually just going to get rid of that. But all right. And then this one has a 12mm bolt behind there. So we're going to undo that 12. And this is why you definitely don't want the battery hooked up, because if you touched anything on here, it could be a disaster. All right. So we got this 12 off. There's that bolt. I'm going to set that aside. Okay. This should just pop off. There it goes. All right. Okay. So here's our end. And you can see right here, all right, we need this part. We don't need this plastic part anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And also, too, it's attached a little bit to this other wire. That gives us a little more room. All right, so let me get rid of that. There, I got a pair of cutters right here. And I'm just going to get rid of this plastic part. It won't. This now has to go to the starter. And with this plastic part on there, it won't fit. Okay. All right. Okay, so I just got rid of that plastic part. Okay, so now this wire right here, which is a white wire, I know it's all under insulation, but it actually is going to go onto the top of the starter. And I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so we got that out of the way. All right, so now let's go ahead and get this wire hooked up. So I want to leave myself a little bit of room, so maybe I can kind of clean it up and zip tie it out of the way. So. All right. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put an I terminal on here. But what I'm also going to do, and like I'm sure I told you I was on the other one, is that I want to add a little piece of heat shrink tubing. So let me get some heat shrink tubing and my torch. We're going to make this look super clean. Okay, so probably this size right here will work good. Weave that down in there like that. Okay. All right, so I need an eye end here. Here it is right here. Okay, so I'm going to put that on there. And then crimp this down. Okay, and I always like to pull on them and check to make sure that I got a good bite on there. All right, so we're going to bring down our heat shrink tubing over it. And I got to tell you, one of the reasons why I really like heat shrinking these alternator ends like this, I see this part break off a lot. And so I haven't seen them break off since we started heat shrinking them on there. And I know they make these ends also that are heat shrunk that you can just heat up. I just don't have one right now, but those are slick. Okay, so we're going back to our torch. Going to try to light it. Suck that right down on there. That looks really good. Okay. Now this end is now going to go in here. Like that. Okay. So the next step is I'm going to try to show you with my finger, and then I'm going to show you on a starter that I have laying here on the floor, is that end that we took off of there, okay, so this end right here, right, is going to need to go over the starter. Now I'm going to put my finger on where it goes. It goes right here. Can you see that, Katie? So this is where it's going to go on top along with this other wire, okay? This other wire that's here is actually the one that goes to our switch, all right? So I'm going to attach that white wire or the alternator wire I just took off onto here. So once again, if I show you on this starter, the wire that I took off of the alternator is going to go on this one, okay? Not this one, all right? This one here on the top, okay? So it goes here, all right? Okay, so it's going to be hard for you to see me do it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it, and we'll be back in just a minute to finish up this video. Okay, so I got it back on. You get up here and here, I'll try to show you what I did. So here's the white wire coming from the back of the alternator that we took off. We got it tied onto that top post of the starter along with the other starter wire that was already there. So I've got that all on there. I know it's really hard to see in there. That's why I couldn't show you, but it only took a couple minutes. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and lower the car. We're going to finish up the top, so we'll be back in just a minute. All right, so we're down and we're back in the trunk. So we're going to finish this all up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the battery out. Remember I told you I didn't like the direction that battery was in? I'm going to take this out. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what batteries I use, I get my batteries at O'Reilly's here in California. What I like about using these batteries is that they have a 3-year warranty on the battery. So if the battery takes a dump within 3 years and I take it back, I keep the receipt. I go in there and they just give me another one. All right. So O'Reilly's is really good about that, warranting this Miata battery. Okay. So I'm going to flip it around. Okay. There it goes. All right. And I'm going to clamp it down. Like that. I know the kids put this bolt in there, and it is the right bolt, but it needs a bigger washer. So I'm going to put it in here for now, but I'm definitely going to have to switch that out so it has a bigger washer. All right. So I always hook up my negative last. So I want to hook up my positive first, which is on this side. So we move this to here. Okay. All right. So I need a battery end, and it just so happens that I have one right here. All right. Some assembly required. I got a free test day on at Thunder Hill for everybody in the SCCA on December 30th, 2022. And so I'd like to have this car there to try it out. So that's the plan. And today is, what's today, Katie? The 10th or something like that? I think the 10th. So we got about 20 days to get this thing ready to go to the racetrack. Yeah, I'll probably put this underneath there. I like that better. Yeah. All right. Send in there. Okay. Now, don't forget, before you go do the logbook, and we're going to get a logbook on this car, and I'm going to go through the whole video of this car getting a logbook for SCCA. And we'll probably get one for NASA as well. All right. So this positive post would need to be covered up. Okay. tighten that up. Put this wrench here. Okay. This tube here, these are vents for the battery. It's a good idea to hook them up. There are some fumes that come off this battery, and sometimes those fumes can be explosive. And so sometimes it's a good idea to go ahead and hook those up. Since the car has them right here, we'll go ahead and put them on. Okay. And then our ground is right here. Remember I told you that ground went from here to the body? And then if you follow this down, it would go down to the, that's my 10 millimeter. It would go down to the PPF bar there by the differential. Okay, so tight, tight. Battery doesn't flop around. That all looks good. All right, let's go back to our switch. We got a couple more things we need to add to the switch. Okay, so before I do that, I always like to cover this up. It's actually mandatory that this be covered up before you do your logbook. All right, so they make all kinds of fancy rubber things that go back there, but you know, this is the econo build, right? We're trying to go inexpensive here, so I use a paint cap. All right, so basically what I do is I just take a paint cap and I'm going to cut a couple slots in here. And then we just stick it on there. Well, maybe I guess I should have got some cutters. Yeah, maybe a pair of cutters would have worked better. Okay. Let's see if I made it big enough. Yeah, I can tell. You like it. Only because you subscribed to my channel. You did subscribe, right? Okay. We're just using some electrical tape to hold this cover on. Notice how I color coordinated with the color of the cage. You know, it's intentional. You could use any accent color that you would like. Okay. There we go. So that's pretty clean. Okay, so now we come to the front up here. If you come up here, this is pretty important. So this switch goes on here. That would be off, and this would be, or that would be on, and this will be off. Okay, so when it comes to putting this thing on, what I do is I make sure that I lock tight that screw, because if this screw falls out, or if you lose this screw, it's almost impossible to get a replacement. You end up having to buy another switch. Ask me how I know. So I'm going to put that on like that. And I've got a Phillips right here ready to go. I've got my Loctite. And so Katie's going to go ahead and hand me the screw. Katie, do you have that screw with you for this? What happened to the screw, Katie? Oh, you don't have the screw? Well, it just so happens I have it right here in my pocket. So I'm going to put just a drop of, yeah, it's an inside joke. I told Katie to take the switch out and make sure she didn't lose the little screw right here. And guess what Katie did? She dropped it down the hole in the frame rail. And I found it, but I didn't tell her I found it. So she's been sweating it out since we started this video. That's the kind of guy I am. All right. Okay, we're good. All right, everything's on there. Put the cap back on the Loctite. So the big question is, will it run? And to tell you the truth, normally on a situation like this, I test it to make sure that everything is right while I have it on video. So it's a really risky move to do this on video to where I haven't tested it. I don't even know if that battery's got a charge on it or not. So I really don't know. I guess we could kind of tell by turning the switch on, Katie, and see if the lights come on the dash. The lights came on the dash. Okay. I'll take the camera. All right. This is as risky as it gets. Okay, Katie, let's see if you start it and let's see if this thing works. Because if it doesn't work, we're going to look like idiots here online. Okay, let's hope it starts. Okay, so far so good. Yes, we did it. All right. Okay, we did it. See, we even tested it and didn't even test it beforehand. Here you go, take that, Katie. Yeah, we know Miatas out here at Airplace Racing. Hey, subscribe to the channel. I hope you liked it. We're getting our accountability going. Going to run December 30th at Thunder Hill. If you want to come out and play with us, come out and play with us. I'll see you at the racetrack. Bye now.